Better. Now, those of you that were here Tuesday, do you see the setup's a little different? We're trying to get ready for TV, see, so that the visual's a little better on the video. Yeah, yeah.
Calvary hat on.
Look at him sitting in the back.
Are we live, Joe? Try and get it going.
All right. Okay.
That's why I did it.
All right. So, welcome to this Thursday night with bad weather looming, I suppose. Thanks for coming. Let's have a word of prayer. Lord, thank you so much for what you're doing here at Calvary, and I'm just so thankful to be a part of it. Thank you for Ryan and his leadership, and I pray, Lord, that you just help us have a good time tonight as we talk about the admissions process and some of the really amazing things that you've put together for us. So we've got a lot to celebrate, but we also want to make sure everybody understands, and so we hope this is a great meeting, that not only the folks that are here, but those that are watching us on video would be able to get a lot out of this time period. In your name, Lord, amen.
Okay, before we jump into the slideshow tonight, I do think it'll go a little bit quicker tonight than on Tuesday. But if you weren't here on Tuesday, or if you're watching live, again, you can get on our YouTube channel and you'll see that video replay. It is a bit lengthy, but to give you a very, very quick recap, we talked about the school launching and becoming an independent ministry, still with some connections to Calvary Baptist Church, but an independent ministry. And we also talked about a new campus at the 68 property, or for us it would be County Road 9, which would be our entrance. So you can go back and you can see the full plans for that. But again, those are two really, really big items. So we wanted to be brief, but it's hard to go too quick over two really significant items for the school. So tonight, again, we're going to cover kind of a miscellaneous group of items. We're going to bounce around just a little bit. We're going to start in admissions. And this will lead into some scholarship programs, some you may be familiar with, and some that are brand new that we just became providers for. So we'll go ahead and go to that first slide there, Mr. Kiner. So this says admissions at Calvary. One thing that we want to continue to reiterate to all of our families, and we did this a little bit on Tuesday, is that the admissions process at the school has not changed in a long time, and that's going to continue. So even though we continue to see more families coming to the school, we're doing visits regularly with tours, and we have new programs and scholarships like we're going to talk about in a minute. There's not a thing that's changed with these families that are coming in. We're looking for good long-term fits, and then as you see on the slide right there, maybe you can see on the stream, our families, they apply. We do have a new family interview for those who are coming in. We sit down and talk in my office. We also grab family and student testimonies. The student testimonies are for students that are in high school. So sometimes we don't grab it if they're younger, but we're getting them from the parents. We also receive pastor recommendation forms before an admissions decision is made, and then of course we do those each year during enrollment, which we're going to talk about here at the end. And the last point just talks about how it's our intention to continue to remain a discipleship-focused school. We look to partner with Christian families, be an extension of what you guys are doing, and we just want to make sure that's super clear. Just because the school is growing, hopefully that just means teachers are doing a great job, word of mouth is going out in the community, and it's drawing people in to go, what's different at Calvary, what's happening there, I want to check it out. It does not mean that, hey, we've lowered the bar for coming into this school. The culture at the school is important. We're going to talk more about that here soon.
Isn't it interesting, Ryan, that when we grew like crazy, that some people would scratch their head and go, what's going on here? Like somehow we did something different with admissions, and we did nothing different with admissions. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody that comes is as perfect as you guys are, but it does mean that we expect someone to have a testimony of faith. We're not an evangelistic type school where we're just trying to bring anybody in and hope that they come to know the Lord. But although we did celebrate someone that came to know the Lord today,
We did.
but isn't that going to be a normal thing when you got third grade and fourth grade and whatever grades, and they get to say, I'm going to own this for myself. And yeah, I know my mom and dad are Christian, but I want to be a Christian. It's beautiful. So it's the same. So don't be shocked, though, if a kid does something wrong or hears something bad or whatever. You know, these little guys, and you know better, but they're sinners. But it's a discipleship relationship. We understand that we're doing what the Bible tells us, and we react the way the Bible would want us to react.
You know, something that we discuss when new families come in and they meet with me and we will walk around the school is when we enroll kids, it's not like a college. You know, if you go to a university or higher education, you're enrolling the student, where we're really enrolling the family. Mm-hmm. So those conversations with us really center around, this is the direction that the school is going in, this is what is important to us. It's that the biblical integration in everything we do. We want to make sure that the families are very clear on that is exactly what the families want as well. And if it is, that can be a good fit long term, because if they're here preschool all the way through 12th grade, you're talking 14 years. That is a long relationship. So we need to make sure that we're starting off on solid ground so that thing can go the distance. And when it can, it only benefits the student. We know that at the beginning, if we're going in one direction and our families are not, we're gonna grow apart, and it's not gonna be good, or we're gonna clash heads, and it's gonna be even worse, and it's gonna result in a transfer and a withdrawal. And obviously, we'd love to avoid that whenever we can, just to have that continued stability for the students.
We had a conversation with a family the other day that they had 3 or 4 kids, and one of their kids was giving them a hard time. Well, so, you know, Ryan has to call the kid in, and they have to have this discussion, and the mom or the dad comes in, it's like, oh boy, what did he do this time? And we feel bad for them, and they were embarrassed, but they're totally in. You know, they're like, you know, what can we do? How can we be more proactive? And that's a family you want to work with. Now, if you get the opposite of that, where you get a family that's like blame gaming, and it's not our fault, at that point, it's like, maybe you need to find a different school.
It makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a partnership. We know that education is not a business where we go, hey, we just do the education thing, you guys do the mom and dad thing. Right. It's very much a partnership where we know we need to work together with our families, and we need to build into their lives throughout each grade and correct when correction is needed. But again, if we're on the same page from the very beginning through the admissions process, we have a much higher chance of being successful as we go through good times, and then we go through some rocky times together. Again, we're talking 14 years. You're bound to have some good times and some bad times. Yeah. Well, we touched on school culture, so we'll go ahead and move to that. And we just want to reiterate real quick that the school culture is incredibly important to us. It's something that we spend a good amount of time on with our staff. We try to make sure we have really clear expectations of who we are as an organization, as a school, what we're all about. And I think that there's a little bit of a myth maybe that small places, organizations always equals a good, strong culture, and then bigger equals bad. And it's not necessarily that cut and dry. We know that there can be small organizations that have a toxic culture, and you could have large organizations that are thriving, and you have alignment, and you have people working together. So we're not so concerned with the size of the organization. We want to partner with Christian families. We're never going to say we want to partner with Christian families up until X amount of number. If we have the capacity to bring them in and we feel we can educate them appropriately, we want to continue to bring them in as long as they're continuing to meet those admission standards.
So bringing in the right people is important. We know that. But we also know how important the team is. I mean, having the right people hired in the right spots, doing a great job is very, very important. That's why it's such an impressive thing to see this little badge that's up here on the screen. And I just think it's a wonderful testimony that our people enjoy doing what they do. And we've talked before, they don't get paid as much as they could get paid if they were at a public school, and yet they love what they do. So, and they love who they work with. So that's exciting.
So what you see there, and we've posted about it a little bit on social media, it's Best Christian Workplaces Institute. So this is a company that's over in Washington, and it's literally all they do. They survey Christian workplaces, and for us, it's going to be a regular rotation of feedback that we get from our staff, because again, we want to know where we're at. We know we're telling them this is where we want to be as an organization. These are the key factors that we need to all be in alignment with. And again, as we grow, we bring in more staff members, we continue to be in alignment on those issues, but we want to continue to collect that feedback from staff to go, how are we doing? Is there an area we need to pay more attention to? What are we doing well? Okay, let's keep doing those things really well while we pick up this area over here that's not doing so great. So again, this survey, we scored in the 94th percentile across the nation, which again just speaks to a strong staff culture. And I'm sure for you all here in person and for people watching online, you get it, because the team, the teachers, the assistants, the lunch staff, doesn't matter who we list, they're fantastic and they're professional, and it just it sets a great culture from the top down, and of course that trickles its way down to the students, into the student body, and then we're trying to find ways to build into those leaders in the student body, in the especially the junior and senior class, and continue to have that go throughout the student body, even at the younger grade levels. Yep. And what you see here on this slide is of course mentioning that certification. We talked about a flourishing school culture and how we try to accomplish that with clarity surrounding our mission. And again, just reiterating that our mission as a school is to partner with Christian families and just to be an extension of your home. So to have clarity on all those things. So we can go to the next slide. Now with that, we've talked a bit about Ed Choice scholarships. We're going to talk about two types of scholarships tonight. And the first one is Ed Choice. Now, there's some figures on here. There's more information on the CCS app about Ed Choice, so don't feel like you have to remember all of these. You can see more info. But if you're not familiar with this program, again, there was a time years ago, not that many years ago, where we had families that wanted to partner with us, and it just could be difficult to make the financial sacrifice work. We did not have a robust scholarship program, and that was a problem with getting kids access to the school. We want kids to have access to this school. We think it's a life-changing place. You mentioned before a student getting saved, a fifth grade student, it's life-changing. We want students to be here to experience that, to be in that environment, to be with their friends in this environment, to be with the teachers in this environment. So this is an amazing program that will continue to help families in this area just be able to access the school. So you see some statistics at the top of this page. So this year we had 35, and this is what's highlighted in green. We have 35% of the school that qualified this year, but 70% of that number were already previously enrolled students. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about a significant influx right now of new families just coming in on this program.
So if someone thought that the reason we grew was because of Ed Choice, that's just not true. The people that got to be on Ed Choice were already here. And so I think that's good to know. Now, we might have an increase in next year's enrollment based on Ed Choice as people get to know. And by the way, I hope that you are excited to tell some of your friends you won't believe a program that's possible for your family, because that's the kind of way we'd love for the word to spread. It's not, I don't know that we're going to even do stuff in the newspaper that much, because our goal is like-minded people like yourselves that would want to be a part of the school. So we know there's tons of people that would love to be here. They just didn't think they could. Yeah.
Or you look at the website, you get sticker shock, and you don't even come in for a visit. You just assume that's out of our family's reach. But again, because of some programs like this, that's not the case anymore. So there are two routes in Ed Choice that we'll just take a quick second to talk about those two routes. The first one is called traditional. This is based on public school performance. And there was an interesting update just a few months ago that also said foster families, or those with an active foster license, they also qualify. So that was a new That was a totally new law that just was in October, and that also extended to families who have kinship placements or families that maybe grandma and grandpa are watching the child, and there are just different situations that qualify under this that are totally new rules, and we had some families that ended up impacting. The expansion side of this equation is basically just based on household resources. So you're looking at what is the size of your household and what is the overall income for the household. So there's a process where you're verifying that. It's an Ohio program. So they want to make sure that you live in Ohio. You're going to verify your address. You're going to verify your income. And they're going to see if you come in that first bracket. Now, you can go to the next slide because this will show some of those income levels. One of the things that surprised us as we got into this program is that the income levels for this program are pretty median income levels for Logan County.
There was a day when this program started that the graph said 100% right at poverty level. And we've seen over the years that keeps creeping up, and now it's at 250%. So if you have a chance to look at those numbers, those are medium and even more than medium income levels.
And that's what happened when we became providers, and as people saw this last year, we had families go, I wasn't even really planning to apply for aid, but we qualify for this, so let's do the paperwork. And then hopefully those people then become givers.
Right, because they're not paying like they were. They're not paying like they were. And we've heard once in a while, we'll hear this, I don't know if it's an innuendo or what it is, but it's like, oh, you're going to take those people. Like they're like poor people that are just out on some lunch line somewhere and they decided to show up to our school. It's not like that at all, and especially not like that in Logan County and our kind of our rural community. These are some very solid incomes that qualify.
So our hope with this is just that, again, our families would tell others. Do you have a family member, or do you have a friend in your neighborhood, or do you have a friend in your church that you think could benefit from a Calvary education? And maybe they've never considered it before, or maybe they thought, yeah, I've looked at tuition in the past, and I really don't think I can make it happen. There are some additional routes to make that possible. We'll talk about a different scholarship next. This is called John Peterson, and this one's a little bit more specific, but we just officially became providers of the John Peterson Scholarship a few weeks ago. We were formally approved, and this scholarship is for students who are on IEPs. So these are individual education plans. So an IEP is something that, for those of you who have kids on the IEP, you know everything about it. You know what that means. For some of you, it's like, what's an IEP? An IEP is a way to help kids that have learning struggles and to help them with extra support. Maybe there's some speech therapy that's needed. Maybe it's occupational therapy. There's various things that you can do. We've got some great interventionists right here at our school right now. In fact, one of them is in the back of the row right now. And they just are trying to figure out ways to connect with a student that maybe gets lost in the cracks. And this is an amazing program that Christian schools over the years have not done it because it takes a lot of resources. And here we are able to give a full-blown program. And again, it was just like Ryan mentioned earlier, we right now, I believe, have 20 students that are IEP. They are going to qualify for this next year. And they're in the school right now. Not to mention the people that might hear this and say, are you kidding me? You guys are serving IEPs now? Yes. And not only are we serving IEPs, we've got a wonderful population of kids, your kids, that are part of the mainstreaming of that IEP kid that helps them to do well. We hear a lot of stories from kids that are on IEP and they're in the mainstream of a classroom. They're getting made fun of and teased and whatever. Well, that's not going to happen here, right? Never. Well, I mean, I know it's going to happen once in a while because we're regular kids, but our kids have been so amazing and kind to kids that struggle. So what a wonderful place. Some parent's going to have this struggling IEP kid. They're going to say, are you kidding me? We could go to Calvary? Absolutely, they can. And so there's a chart that says, I think it's the next slide, Joe, but it actually talks about some of the different IEP versions that people can come and what the price is that will pay for tuition and plus for the therapies and some of the extra stuff that's needed with an IEP. So again, an amazing program. Well, and something our families, again, if they're not plugged into this world, I know there are people in the community who don't even realize that we have services for IEP students. It's just in their mind that that's not a population that we can serve. I know I've heard that out there. Now, the reality is we've served IEP students for probably nearly 15 years.
Yeah.
So this isn't anything new to Calvary. This has been going on for a long time. We have more intervention specialists on staff now than we ever had in the past.
Yeah.
But we haven't always been able to provide the exact services that they have needed. So if a student came in and they really needed speech therapy, and well, there was, again, up until now, because of this program, we would say, well, if you're going to come to Calvary, like we want you to be here, but look, you got to know we can't service this part of your IEP. You're going to have to find speech therapy somewhere else. You're going to have to go on your own, Mary Rutan or somewhere else. You're going to have to get that speech therapy. So now, because of this, we're going to be able to tell our own people, hey, we can apply through this John Peterson scholarship as a service. This is going to cover the tuition, first of all, and then depending on what the IEP says, there's going to be some extra funds for us to go out and bring in those resources. So during the day and not on, your dime or your insurance.
And by the way, we have all the control in this. We get to decide if this is an IEP we can serve, because there's some IEPs out there that would be very difficult. Maybe they're a physical IEP, maybe it's a health issue that maybe we really can't serve. So we can put the categories that we can serve, and we can kind of have a sweet spot of what we really get good at in terms of serving an IEP. So again, it's one of those situations where we don't have to do everything. We really get to pick and choose.
Yeah, and that goes back to even a point with admissions where I don't think it really touched on. Our admission acceptance rate is about 89%. 89% acceptance rate into the school, and academic needs as far as IEPs, that is usually one of those areas that for us, sometimes we will see IEPs that will go, man, we really want to work with you guys, we'd love to, but right now we don't have the resources or the capacity to give your family what you really need, so you need to go somewhere that has those extra resources that we haven't had in the past. Okay, we'll move over to the backpack bill, and again, another topic that we're not going to camp on for too long, but we just want to make sure our families are simply aware of this. I know we've had this information in our school app for a while, and we've written about it for a little bit, but it's not a reality right now, but we just wanted you to know that this is a possibility that could be coming a year or two down the road, and for us it's really exciting. So the backpack bill basically just says that for families in Ohio, and we wouldn't be the first state that's gone to a model like this. This does exist elsewhere in the United States. It's a funding basically follows your child type of bill. So the funding goes with the family, and if the family decides to place your child in a private school like Calvary Christian, well, the backpack bill would say you can opt in to the backpack bill program. You don't have to. You can continue to pay tuition if you'd like to, but you can opt into this program, and you will have an education savings account, or an ESA, funded for each child at either $5,500 for tuition for K through 8 or $7,500 for tuition for 9 through 12.
And in the bill, it's got embedded in it inflation for the future years, so it sees that number going up each year. So it's an amazing possibility. And I told Ryan, I don't know how much we should talk about this, but at least to say there's a lot of momentum and energy in Ohio for school choice. And by the way, did you hear Ryan say the backpack bill? We don't want to camp on that? The backpack bill? No camping? I thought that was pretty good. I don't know.
That's terrible. That's terrible. Okay, so that's backpack bill. We'll go ahead and move on now. We'll keep it moving and just talk a little bit about some other new things that are going to be coming next year. And ESM Week is one that we're beginning to think about. And this is down the road, and this is some of the older crew. It's about a year away, really, but this is something that we're excited being in the kind of early stages of planning.
We're going to say just a minute about this, but really we just want to say again that it's just exciting to have the financial ability to improve our music program and and have more offerings in our academic program for the high schoolers and more art possibilities. And so all that to say, those are going to keep rolling out, but this ESM week seems like a fairly good and easy one to start with, because what we can do with this is have a 1 week time, and typically we put it right before spring break so that there can be the possibility of kids taking some trips. So this 1 week, 1/4 credit class could be very creative in terms of trips, service arrangements, mentorships, internships, just some things that we can't normally do. Maybe we could have a home ec type class, or we could have an ag class, something that we couldn't really have on our own campus, but maybe for 1 week we could take it to someone's farm, or just be creative about it. But it's just the idea that really homeschool families have been teaching us for the last many years, that there's a lot of ways to learn, and you don't have to just be in a chair in a classroom to do it. And so we want to take advantage of some of those possibilities and some of those options. And so we think we could put this in the schedule and make it happen pretty quickly. We'll have to do a lot of research and find out what you guys would be interested in. I know at some of the schools where I've been, we've gone to the Holy Lands, we've gone to Italy, we've done mission trips to Dominican Republic or Costa Rica. So who knows where those could go and what those options might be. But what a neat thing to be embedded in the schedule of a high school kid to do some of these extra things.
All right, from here, we will move on, and we are going to chat a little bit about a new tuition model called variable tuition. And we're going to camp there for just a little bit, and we're actually going to start with about a 1.5-minute video that Mr. Kiner is going to get loaded up. And we'll show that and then kind of talk about the what and why and how it works.
For over 4 decades, Calvary has partnered with Christian families to provide a Christ-centered education. We believe that our Christian education mission is essential to help Christian families train, educate, and disciple the whole child. This is especially vital when you consider that a student will spend nearly 17,000 hours in school during their K-12 career. An education that teaches and reinforces a well-developed biblical worldview is essential for living the life God has called us to. The commitment to excellence, though, has always required a significant financial investment, which for some families can seem out of reach. Although a private education may not seem affordable, we at Calvary are always looking for ways to make this life-changing education accessible. One way we do this is through the generous support of our community and donor base. Because of them, no Calvary student actually pays the true full cost of tuition. With tuition already supplemented for every student, the leadership at Calvary is excited to introduce a new program that will help grant access to Christ-centered education to even more families. This program is called variable tuition. So, what is variable tuition? Variable tuition is just that, a variable. This model removes the one-size-fits-all tuition levels and instead creates a range to match a family's tuition with their unique financial position. So how does it work? Families simply complete a 1-page secure application, which is only shared with Calvary Christian Administration. We then use your family's unique tuition level to build your personal financial agreement. Your family income is matched with income ranges that correspond to the tuition charged. That is what I'm telling you. Our mission is too valuable for every Christian family, and we do not want you to miss out. So, you think you can't afford quality Christian education? Think again. With variable tuition at Calvary Christian, an excellent Christian education has never been more accessible. So what are you waiting for? Contact our office today to begin your journey to become a Spartan.
So you saw it there in the short video, and we'll have that live on our website. So of course you can go back and watch it if you go, okay, that still doesn't make sense after the night's over. We've got some points here as we get back to the PowerPoint that's going to talk about what and why. So if we look at Calvary's tuition, Calvary across the state has always been on the affordable end of that tuition spectrum. We know that tuition is going to be close to between $7,000 and $11,000 elsewhere, and we're usually we've been about half that for most of our existence. The variable tuition program is a K-5 through 12 system that for us, we want to make sure that it communicates affordability. Again, we don't want a family to just look at a number, get sticker shock, and go, oh, I can't even have a conversation about that. We're just going to step out and be done. And in reality, that's going to work. It's going to work very similar to how it's always worked here at Calvary as far as tuition and financial aid and how those programs work together. But it's a communication piece. But we're going to look at a chart here in a second. We shared that here in the building, and we have the graphs here. They'll be in the office if a family is streaming this wants to come pick it up and take a look at this. But basically what this does is it allows us to create ranges of tuition to better match it to a family's level of resources. And it also allows us to place the biggest burden on those receiving state scholarships. So basically, as we've started bringing in Ed Choice scholarships and next year John Peterson scholarships, because our tuition is so low, we have left a lot of money on the table this year. We've left about $110,000 on the table that we just sent back. And of course, we could obviously use those funds to invest it back into our teachers, make sure those teacher salaries are more competitive, putting it back into our programs, into our classrooms, into a new building project, whatever it needs to go into. So we certainly wanted a system where we say, yeah, we don't love the idea of continuing to just leave that money on the table every year. That's significant. So variable gives us the ability to do that, but we didn't just want to say, well, let's just increase tuition for everybody by a huge jump that's completely not normal, and now, hey, we're kind of punishing everybody who's not on this system. So we don't want to punish what is the majority of the school with an enormous raise that is completely out of the ordinary, just to say, oh, hey, we're maximizing those dollars from scholarships. Obviously, that would be very frustrating. So this system allows us to do that. For those that are not in the state scholarship system, basically a normal year for us, and for a normal year across the board, is 3 to 6% is pretty average. If you look at other private schools around the state, it's generally what you're going to see tuition hike. Now, it's not the same as universities who are going to hike around 7 to 8% per year or more. So 3 to 6, okay. So if you guys here in the building, if you have this chart, you've got several columns on this, and this is the chart that I'm looking at right now, and you can kind of start to plot your own family out. And one thing I'll add too, again, is that financial aid is not going away here at Calvary. Basically, this works pretty similar to how you saw the Ed Choice graph earlier, where you have a number of household, number of people in your household. For us, in the looking at variable tuition, we're going to be looking at number of dependents, because we also know that there are families that, while Ed Choice will say 17 and under, for us, we do have families that grandma and grandpa will live with them, and they may be responsible for some of the financial cost of their care. So we're going to use the number of dependents in your household, and then you can match that. And we've put pretty wide categories, again, with the idea of saying, we want to keep this as normal as possible. We know that we need to continue to increase. We need to increase tuition. We're really, really low comparatively. And I know it's tough to say because we're in a community with largely public school options. There's not a lot of Christian private schools here in the area. But again, one of the big factors in that is, again, that we want to continue to pay our teachers well. I won't go into that too much, but there have been many years here at Calvary where the wages that our teachers have received is embarrassing for us to think about. Last year, we made a commitment that we needed to create a new pay scale for them as far as getting them on a track, because there even wasn't a pay scale. There was no standard measure of increases, and we just need to say, let's look at the not surrounding schools, because we know we're not going to compete salary-wise for our teaching staff with the public school system. But we need to look at Christian schools around the state specifically and go, where are they at? And go, we need to be competitive with that. We need Calvary to be a place where if we get a good young teacher, we need to be able to keep them and give them a wage that they can live on. And for many years, we just couldn't do that, and we didn't. So again, that is definitely a commitment of the school board here, that we want to be able to keep that system viable. So again, that's what this is all about. How can we maximize opportunities that are currently available to us while not punishing everybody else with a crazy high increase? So if you're looking at this graph, we're really going to start in that second column to the right. So you can kind of pick out the number in your household, and you can see where your range of income falls. And if it falls in that blue yours is black and white, but if it falls in that middle category, let's say you got a household of 5 and you make $90,000 or so, you can then go down to the bottom of the page and go, hey, that's going to be about a 3% increase. And as we see, even back on the slideshow, the middle two rows equaling a 3 or a 7% increase is going to be roughly $15 to $35 a month of an increase, and that's a pretty normal year for us at Calvary. And this is also coming in a year that we have seen inflation at much higher rates than what has been normal. I think it's about a 30-year high. I know all businesses are seeing that and dealing with that, and we are too. Costs for consumables and just paper, the different things that you can imagine are needed to run a school. Everything is just, the budget is filling up quicker than it ever has. We've got a level beyond that. You see a column that's 600% of the poverty level, all the way up to 990% of the poverty level. So that's a pretty wide range. Again, so if you can't just compare this straight to the Ed Choice graph, in that it's a pretty good range, and we're hoping to catch pretty much all of our families. Obviously, we looked at our data from families that we had information for, because some either have applied for financial aid or have done title surveys or things like that. So we're trying to catch as many families as we can in these low, modest increases. But even if your family falls in the category where you're between 600 and 99% of the federal poverty level, that's going to result in a 10% increase for this year, and that's roughly $45 a month. Now, if you're 1,000% and above, that takes you to the very top level, which you see the tuition levels there below. It's $2,500 for K4, $5,500 for K5 through 8, and that's a new category change as well, because it used to go through 6. So K5 through 8, and then 9 through 12 is $7,500. But we want to reiterate that variable tuition just gives us a targeted level for your family. And from there, the regular financial aid process can take over. We want to continue to make sure that the school is accessible. And because a lot of the tools that we have available to us, we think the system is more robust than ever to keep families here.
So maybe to say it another way, you've seen the video, Ryan's explained it, but maybe another way to say it is our tuition is $7,500 for a high school student and $5,500 for a K through 8. That sounds crazy when you know what you paid last year. But then when we put it into this variable scenario, you can see how that makes a lot of sense. But think about it, 35, 40%, we don't know for sure, will be in the Ed Choice category. And guess who's paying that full tuition? Ohio, your taxes. So that really helps us as we think about our income stream and really doing some really, all the things that Ryan said. So we just knew that to say that the new tuition was $7,500 and $5,500 was not going to be a good communication. So we had to be able, in a meeting like this, explain it well so that you can understand what's behind all this.
Well, and we talked about the desire to pay our teaching staff a competitive salary, and that's absolutely true. We also know that there's going to be the reality of becoming independent, where CBC was supplementing certain expenses for us, and we know that day is going to be likely going away here somewhat soon. So those revenue streams were going to be necessary to bring in. Now, again, this system was one that we ended up liking because, again, our biggest benefit from here is in a place where our families aren't going to feel it. It's in those scholarship systems where we can lean on those for the heaviest
Yep.
heaviest burden to make that up. So the next slide says variable tuition. How does it work? So starting April 1st of this year, all CCS families will apply either through our app or through our website, and it's through a secure application that's only sent to CCS admin. Families that do not apply or choose to stay outside of this system will appear at the posted tuition levels that Dr. Bragg said, of either that $2,500, $5,500, or $7,500. So we're certainly telling you to say, we want you to apply. It's free. It will not take long. Get into that process there. And then in the application, you're really just verifying the number of dependents in your household and your family income, and there will be a few ways where you can do that, and of course it's confidential. You can black out information. We just want to make it as easy as possible for you guys so we can peg a bracket for you and then move forward from there. And then, like I just said, it will generate a tuition level so we can build those financial agreements like we always have, and then families can then apply for financial aid from there as necessary. Anything you want to add there?
I think that's good.
All right, and then our last topic for tonight is going to be continuous enrollment. So continuous enrollment was just another method that was new last year. For many years, if you've been here for a while, we had re-enrollment, where every year we are expecting you to opt back into the school. So continuous enrollment was a shift in where we said, we're going to expect that you're staying, but if you're going to opt out, there's a process for you to opt out. We also were requiring our families to fill out the same exact paperwork every single year, and it was long, and it was like, why are you asking me this again? If you've been here for a while, you're shaking your head and you hated it. So continuous enrollment, again, just lets us say, hey, you're going to do your paperwork one time, and then when continuous enrollment time rolls around, we're going to assume you're staying. Let us know if you're not. And you're basically just going to do a few things. You're going to have a down payment. This isn't really an extra fee. It's really just a number that we've pulled out of your regular tuition and said, hey, don't pay it to us in the regular tuition. Just pay it to us in the springtime as a down payment. So for our families, it's saying, hey, reserve my spot. We're planning to be back. We're going to shuffle into that next grade there when the time comes. And for us, it helps us to manage our wait lists. Because we know, okay, they've taken the roster spot. Okay, this family's not taking that roster spot. We can fill that elsewhere. It helps us to budget appropriately. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we got to make a new budget in July.
We got to hire the right teacher amount, and get the right number of books, and on it goes.
Yep. So the continuous process is a really important one, and for us, that time is coming up here pretty quickly. We're at the end of February right now, so this process really begins March 1st. So March 1st, you'll see the continuous enrollment down payment. It'll be placed on the fax account. So families can just log in. They'll see that fee there. Again, it's that $100 that was pulled from tuition, where we said don't pay it to us there. Just pay it to us and tell us that you're coming back. And that's there for 2 weeks. We do know that we have some large families, and for them, they may go, man, I got 6 kids there. That's $600. Okay, well, contact the office if you're going, I'm really not able to make a $600 payment right now. Contact the office. We've set up payment plans. We've let you work it over 2 or 3 months, and we'll, of course, work with you. Just stay in good communication with us, and we'll work with your family and to find the best way for that. And from there, we do want you to take a look at your information. So when you did the initial enrollment, that populated your fax account basically. So that information is there. That information goes into our SIS, which is our student information system. So what our office uses all the time, we want to make sure that's accurate. And that was a nice thing about re-enrollment, is it was forcing you every year to go in. And most of the time, nothing was changed. But if something did change, it always caught it. So now that we're not forcing you and making sure you're updating your information, there's a possibility that something could get out of date. So we certainly don't want emergency contacts to be out of date or important information like that. So inside of your fax account, there is a button on the left side that says Web Forms. And if you look at that, you'll see a few other links that will just, if you click on them, and it will pull up your information as a family. So if you moved, we'll just update your address, and that will update it in our system. If you got a new phone, well, we want to make sure you're in one call and you're getting our messages, so just update it, and we'll get that updated in our system. So that's the bottom line on web forms, and we also have the annual worship leader recommendation form. So again, we talked about that in the admissions process, where we receive that pastor recommendation form, and that's an annual check. So again, it's our desire. We want our families to be plugged in somewhere. We want them to be growing. Again, we're told to be with the body of believers and growing together and being accountable to each other and to just growing in God's word. So we want to see that you are plugged in somewhere. So that will go out, and our office will run that report every once in a while and just try to keep tabs on which families we've received so far, and then we send that information out to the churches, and we just say, hey, can you verify, this family says they attend this church, can you verify that they are there with you? And there's not much beyond that. We're not getting sticker charts on your attendance in case you missed a week or two, but we want to know that you're connected to a body somewhere. And after we receive the church recommendation form, you can check your payment plan. We do know that some families initially will select maybe an annual plan because they get a 5% tuition incentive, but then the next year they go, man, that was I don't have the ability to still do the annual plan, so I need to switch it to a monthly plan. Your plan is going to roll over inside of continuous enrollment, so if you need it to change, you need to contact the office, and we can change that for you. That's not a problem. You just need to be aware of that, and you just need to let us know. And lastly, of course, we hope this doesn't happen because we want all of our families to stay with us. But if a family does intend to withdraw, we just ask that you notify us before March 1st. So that's another date that is coming up. If you inform us after that date, we do have a $50 withdrawal fee. Again, we just want to know as early as possible what do our roster spots look like for the next year, who's coming back. And again, last year we had roughly 96% retention, which is great. We're very thankful to our families, thankful to our teachers. We certainly want to see that trend continue, but that is pretty much the process on continuous enrollment. Anything you want to add?
Nope, I think that's good. We're ready for some questions.
All right, if you got anything, come on up and let us know. And I'll be checking online, so if you are streaming this tonight, I'll take a look if you want to add a comment in the comment box.
Good question, and no, it's not income-based. It's Oh, I'm sorry. The question was the backpack bill, does that have an income base or some sort of a calculation? And the answer is no, it does not. That is totally per student in Ohio. That money would follow them. Now, it's at the House stage right now at the state of Ohio, so it's still got to get passed through the Senate. So there's some more steps, but the people that we're hearing, some of the lobbyists are saying it's got a lot of energy. They think 70% of the House of Representatives and the Senate are for it. But no, so it's totally it would open it up to every income level.
So that'd be a big change if everyone in the area knew that there was a scholarship just because you walked in the door. Yeah, it's kind of a game changer. Okay, I see a question about John Peterson and applying. For families that do have students already on IEPs, there is an application process that we have to take them through. So we got formally approved for this program just weeks ago, and we still have to kind of figure out the ins and outs of what the application process looks like because that just opened up to us. We think there will be some similarities with Ed Choice. It's similar software.
I think what we can say, though, Ryan, is that this first step is applying for Calvary. That's the first step in all these cases. And then we'll help you with what you have to do as you start to upload a lot of information to the ODE website.
Yeah, so they'll absolutely have to be an enrolled student. If you're already here, though, we will have to initiate those applications, and then the families will have to supplement some information so we can finish it, similar to Ed Choice. So the question was, with the John Peterson program specifically, do we have input in who gets hired? Say we bring in a speech therapist or occupational, whatever it may be. And the answer is we're definitely in the consultation process. So for us, we don't have a speech therapist on staff or OT, which is part of the reason why we're excited that we can provide this to our families. So we will likely be going through the ESC, and we'll be working with them over there to kind of consult together and find an employee that we feel comfortable with being here at Calvary and that they're licensed to provide those services to the kids.
So our first source will be ESC, which means it's the educational group. They run about 12 different counties around, and we happen to know the folks that run that very well. Good people. We would want to get the resource from them first because it would be handiest. But if it's not a nice connection, we have every right to go outside of that and find a private person who's given OT services or use Mary Rutan Hospital or whoever. So we've got a lot of choices there.
As long as the person is licensed appropriately, we can hire them.
These are people that get paid somewhere between $50 and $150 per hour. And as we use them and we charge for all the hours that they do this, we then take that and just send that bill to the state, and they pay us back.
So that's probably an important thing to see. For those scholarships, it's not like, because there were some numbers up there, for autism, for students that are on autism IEP, that number could be in the 20,000s. That's not just, hey, that money is just getting sent to Calvary, now we have $20,000 for this kid. It's, here we're going to pay tuition, and here's a range of funds that you can go and pay for these services when they come in.
Yeah. All the above, all those things, anything that the IEP has orchestrated, we can pay for it. Whether we're paying aides, whether we're paying interventionists, whether we're paying therapists. And then when the money runs out, according to the chart, then it runs out, and then we'd have to ask the parent to pay if they want any more services. And when you're talking about an autistic kid, there might be the need for that kind of money. So that money's just not big number coming to the school. That's not true at all. We only get the tuition, and then we just use the rest to subsidize whatever therapies are happening. Yeah, good. Deb and Christy will continue, Ashley will continue to work the way they are as interventionists, but there's the psychologists and some of those other professionals will come out of the public school. I mean, the whole thing starts with an IEP plan from the student's home district. And so those updates and all those things include those home districts.
And I think you mentioned this before, but we are locked into giving the services that are mentioned on the IEP. So if a student's IEP mentions the need for speech, we're not going to be able to go out and bring in, occupational therapy or something like that. It will be what's on the IEP, how can we service those needs.
Well, any feedback? I mean, are you excited about what you're seeing in this variable tuition? Help us to know, did we explain it well enough? I see at least a thumbs up.
No, we're never aiming. We never have a target goal of tuition assistance in the school. Our only goal is to bring in Christian families that are a good fit for,
Yeah.
again, what we're doing, and that we want kids to be in this environment. So there's never this is the number that we want. And title services, we've received some title services now for about 4 or 5 years, and it's never dependent on that number at all. Those programs are only dependent on, we send out a survey. We've had one live in the app now for a while where families will fill out the survey information. So we take that and we send it to the state, and they say, well, because of these numbers, you qualify for this much tutoring for your kids. So our kids will be able to take part in tutoring either during the day or after school, or here's your number for professional development, here's your number for, it could be technology infrastructure and things like that. But there's never a specific number or goal of saying, yeah, we really want to reach this number.
So I may hear you saying that once you reach a certain percentage, that title fund goes up, which we didn't really even know too much about it. Sorry, what's that again? There's several different title monies, so I don't know which one. Some's for teacher certification kinds of things, some's for student stuff. So there's just several different categories.
No.
No.
We
No.
could have one family in the school that because of their income, it qualified, under a certain poverty level threshold. And all that would happen is the state would say, well, here's your funds. Title I, that's for student tutoring. Title II, that's for professional development. And Title IV is for technology infrastructure, safety, things like that. So if we had, say, one student, they would say, well, here, you got $900 in each of these funds. If we happen to have 20 students qualify, they may say, hey, you've got $5,000, whatever the number is. So there's never a threshold that we're saying we have to hit to receive these funds. It's just however many we happen to have that qualify, we'll share that information, and then those funds become available for those things: development, infrastructure, student tutoring. Thank you. Good question.
And I know you had spoken about moving, and I can't remember how you called it, if it was tier 1 or level 1 to level 2, kind of breaking away and growing up. And so I'm not really sure, maybe you can help me understand. I might be the only one who doesn't know this, but is Calvary like a nonprofit? Are they falling under the church?
Yeah.
How are you looking at this governance process changing as Calvary grows up?
Yeah, it's a great question. So since Calvary's beginning in the 70s, we were considered a Category 1 school, which basically just means we are a ministry of the church. So if you look at the church, they have choir, they have youth group, they have Awana, they have Calvary Christian School. So we were never, we were always doing business as Calvary Baptist Church type of thing. We had no ability to take out any type of loans or anything like that. We had no real financial status. We were just completely integrated under them. So, with that, you obviously, if you're talking about governing board, you had the church deacon board, which runs all of the school, not all of the school, all of the church ministries. So that deacon board oversees all of those ministries. So Calvary Christian School is one of those ministries.
Is the deacon board a part of the church then?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the deacon board it's church members from Calvary Baptist Church, and again, they're going to oversee all those ministries. So Calvary Christian School is a unique ministry, and we have had our own school board since the beginning. But that school board still operates underneath the deacon board and structure. Now, in practice, we've had a lot of self-autonomy and freedom, and there have been years where it's been tighter, and that hasn't always been there. But becoming a Category 2, yes, we would go through the process of making us it'd be a new 501c3 nonprofit organization, and it would be not Calvary Christian School, doing business as Calvary Baptist Church. It would just be Calvary Christian School, and we would just have the school board. Even though they've really always ran the school, they were always technically underneath that church deacon board if there was ever a conflict. And now that school board, it wouldn't be that way anymore. They would just completely run the school.
So in terms of the relationship with the state government, and I'm assuming we're certified as a chartered non-public school,
Yeah.
correct? So how does, or I guess, are there any stipulations with how you're governed through, the connection that's been acquired with receiving state funds?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, I guess the best to say is this really falls on the shoulders of the way we put our bylaws together and follow our mission and our vision and all those things that you set up to be a 501c3. How do you bring in your board? What do you expect of your board members? Those are the things that set us up to be just as accountable as we were to Calvary Baptist. Now we're accountable to this self-perpetuating board.
And it's also important to note that, as we began the process of becoming a chartered non-public school years ago, there were many years where chartering the school was like a Christian cuss word, like you just didn't talk about it because you didn't really know exactly what it was, but you knew it was bad. It's one of those types of things. So as we continue to research that, we were constantly at meetings with other school leaders from across the state, and we were one of the only ones that were not accredited. We were one of the only ones that weren't chartered, and we're going, wait, I know you guys didn't all sell your soul to the state. You're still solid Christian schools teaching God's word. You haven't compromised all that. So as that became obvious to us, that's what caused us to go, okay, what's the reality of this? Is the state coming in and really controlling the way we do things? And we found it's not. We still have total control, again, of all our policies and curriculum. We really only had to demonstrate to the state, hiring processes. We really just had to demonstrate to the state that this is a real school. Like, here, look, we have math classes. Here's your minimum standards. We have language. Here's our process. Here's our policy handbooks. And they didn't really care how we did it. We just had to prove that we had them. So there's, right now there's nothing there that worries us about the way we operate the school. But we also know it could happen at any point in the future where the state says, hey, here's some crazy law that's really going to make you violate your conscience and violate what you believe as Christians. And if that day comes, we've discussed that. We have to revoke the charter. And that would mean changes, and that would mean some of these programs that are really benefiting our people would probably go away. But we would do that if we had to. We hope that day doesn't come. We hope we don't see it. And right now, we see it going the other way, where there's support for school choice. But it's always a thought in the back of your head that it could be possible.
Yeah. And my question, I guess, just kind of stems back to the governance piece and, what is available to families. Is there an audit? Is there a financial report? This is a lot of money we're talking about, and families are investing a lot of money, and how do we know it's being spent well? Not that we don't want to trust our administration, but that accountability piece is important, and just kind of wondering where that's at and how the rollout of this nonprofit's going to take place in establishing this independent school board.
Yeah. Well, that is one thing that we actually think will be even easier and be an improvement as a Category 2 school, because as a Category 1, we really had nothing to audit. Everything was underneath the umbrella of Calvary Baptist Church. And as we put together some of these bylaws to launch as an independent organization, we've looked at some ACSI standards, which is the Association of Christian Schools International. We're a member of this group, and again, there's this group. There's thousands of schools across the country, and we share resources. So we've looked at some of their best practices. So I even know in the bylaws it talks about that, where there's a regular rotation of audits, and it's just the list goes on and on of all the best practices to put in your bylaws. So we've looked at some of their standards for that as well.
Plus, you'll be able to see the minutes of the board. So there's just a lot of open communication with this plan.
Yeah.
The bylaws are being worked on now. We're kind of waiting for the vote on the 13th, is it 13th? And so then soon thereafter, probably within a month or two, we'll know where we are on some of the legal issues there. And we'll make sure that you guys get a copy or post it on our web or however. But the current board that Ryan's working with is editing and looking at that and making sure that it makes a lot of sense.
And again, one of our keys with that is, Calvary Christian School is going to remain Calvary. It's going to remain Calvary Christian School. We're not changing who we are. Really, the school is continuing on like we have, with that same heart for the Word of God, the same heart for students, and that's going to be reflected in everything you see in the bylaws. It's just going through the legal steps of making that 501c3 real.
And just one other question. Given the chartered non-public school status, are there requirements to follow sunshine laws with that?
No.
No? Okay. I couldn't find anything online, and I didn't have a chance to call the state, so I just wanted to see if you guys knew. So there aren't any requirements that
Nope.
meetings are open?
Just maybe another little side thought. The non-publics in Ohio make up about 12% or so of all the schools in Ohio. More than 10, right around 10% of them are Catholic schools, and only a couple percent are Christian schools like ours. Those 12% of the schools are the deal of the century for the state of Ohio, because they're only paying us a fraction of what they're paying the public school to educate those kids. So they're needing about $12,000 to $15,000 a year to make a public school work, and to have those kids with us is only costing them, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, whatever. So they're glad that we're here. There's a nice lobbying group for the non-publics in Ohio that tries to stand up for the things that we believe, and our legislative organization right now is very much listening to that lobbyist group. So we have some power in this state, and as we continue to do a good job of educating the kids, they'll be glad for us to do what we're doing.
Thank you.
Well, any more questions? Anybody want to sing a song or anything like that? Did you get another question, Ryan?
I did see a question. I was looking just a second ago. So a question about fax applications and timing of that with variable tuition. No, that will not. We don't see that causing any issues. So if you're a family that's already put in your application for financial aid through fax, we'll be able to go in there and edit it for our needs for financial aid. So that won't be an issue if you've already done that.
Well, we knew that we had a lot to share with you, so we thought we better put it in a Tuesday and a Thursday with all the data in front of us. We're excited to keep talking about this. It's kind of the cat's out of the bag. Now we can talk more openly. We're anticipating that March 13th voting time. That'll really help us to know where we're going. But we've got some ideas about some fundraising banquets and communications. We wanted to continue to reach out to our pastors. We have, 50, 60 different churches that have kids here. We want to make sure we connect all those pastors and pastoral staff. So we've got a lot to do to let our stakeholders know what's going on and help them to feel like they're a part of what we're doing. And again, always looking for input and feedback.
Yeah, and I think that's just the final encouragement here before I'll just pray and close. We appreciate your questions very much, and I know there's some questions that came through online as well. Continue to ask us those questions. I mean, we're talking about some changes, some big changes, some small changes, but we know change is often not easy. So we want to continue that good relationship. Again, it's not just with the student, it's with the whole family. So you're never annoying us, you're never bothering us. We want to hear your thoughts, and we want to talk and continue that dialogue with you guys. So thanks for interacting and being a part of it, and for the good questions you guys have already had.
If we get to have school tomorrow, is it bad? I don't know. If we get to have school tomorrow, we have a chapel plan that I'm very excited about. We're going to let our kids know a little bit about this kind of thing. Yeah, very small. But we're going to give them the idea that when it comes to Christian education, your parents are investing in you, the school, the teachers are investing in you, At what point, Mr. Child, sitting in the pew, do you own this? And you take it upon yourself that this Christian education is only as good as I make it. As my heart has a heart for God and a heart for doing the things my teacher says, that's when this stuff really starts clicking. So we don't want to leave the kid, the student, out of this scenario. And so I want them to be an owner in the part that they play to get a good Christian education.
All right, let's pray. God, again, we do thank you so much for the school here at Calvary. We just pray that, again, that this always stays your school, that you just give us all wisdom as a group of people that just want to see it continue to impact our community and be a positive influence in our kids' lives and an influence that draws them closer to you. So help us just to do that in the best way possible to, again, continue to reach this community for Christ. We continue wanting to see more and more students come to know you and come to follow you and to just see the impact that they will make in this world as followers of Christ. So we thank you so much for that opportunity, and we also want to continue to lift up publicly one of our own. We continue to have Josh Harmison on our minds and our thoughts, and we continue to pray for strength for him and for encouragement for him. And we pray all this in Christ's name. Amen. All right, thanks for coming. What's up?